Right, hello everyone, welcome back to another video back at home in Helsinki, as you may have noticed. If you haven't already, check out the video from yesterday that I uploaded from Ultra Trail Snowdonia. I ran 85 kilometers with 5,000 meters of vertical gain, and it was a truly magical experience. I'll leave that for you to go and discover, go and watch that. Maybe if you're just watching this now, stop here, go and watch the other one, and if you want to, come back and continue watch this. But all I wanted to do is kind of do like a little bit of a race recap in a way, or event recap from my point of view. The story on the day is very different from the one that you tell after very often. And yeah, I just wanted to talk through how I felt, what was going through my mind, things I might have done differently, and all those sort of things. So stay tuned for this rocky ride. So, rocky ride, well, mountainous ride as it was at Ultra Trail Snowdonia. That was my bib number, and yes, so as you can see on the bib number, it's got this good elevation profile of what the event was like, and I've written my own little notes on it as well. But this I'm just going to use as a good, like, healthier reminder. So if you see me peeking down at that, it's just looking at where I am. I'm kind of like re-envisaging where I was on that day. So first set off, so start was 5 o'clock. So obviously I wanted to wake up nice and early, have time to do all my pre-race stuff, eat something, take my feet with this sort of stuff. As you can see, I've not really unpacked that much neither. So I think we woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning and didn't really get that much sleep. I think I went to bed at about 8:30, but it just wasn't, the normal bedtime in a way. And probably didn't get, and also excited as well. So probably didn't actually get to sleep till probably just before 10 o'clock. So I got a good 4 hours, which is, pretty decent. One thing I was very proud of myself in a way for is not being nervous, not getting, getting worried about things. When you've done all the hard training, and when you've prepared by practicing how running with a heavy backpack, done other previous ultras and all this sort of stuff, you need to have those things as the confidence for you. So I was very well prepared mentally. So my dad and we drove over to the start line, listened to the race briefing in the morning. It was a beautiful morning with just sunshine the whole day, and we didn't even need the headlamps at the beginning. And so we set off at 5 o'clock, the race started, lots of happy faces, lots of people running up the first few hills, which funnily enough is kind of always funny, like if you were going to the last hills, no one's going to be running up, no one will be running up it, but that's the way it is. And also when you have that little extra spring, not to go too far, but you can do it. So the first kind of 16 kilometers to the first checkpoint, so there was 730 meters in that of elevation gain, and the first hill was very much of a grassy kind of surface, not very technical, not very hilly. There was a really beautiful morning mist, and we went up there, and obviously still quite a lot of people around you, but we enjoyed the views. And then once you reach the summit or the peak point of that section, there was a long, not long, but it was a downhill section. First half of the downhill was all on grassy sort of stuff, which was very easy and runnable. In hindsight, and I knew it there and then, I was running quite quickly down that, and I knew if I would go any faster than that, you can probably destroy your quads quite early on, and that can come back to haunt you in the next climb, or next one, or the last one. So I tried to keep off the gas a little bit, but at the same time it was a little bit hard. And in hindsight, I would have probably maybe slowed that down a little bit more actually. So it didn't haunt me, but I think that would have been a better decision. So then the second half of that descent was down on like this kind of pavement road, and that also there, when you've got a lot more impact through the ground and the knees, even more so. I think it's, for me, I would say, you got to just be careful extra of that. So first aid station came up pretty quick, and I think I was like there in like 2 hours or something. I was 16k in, and just literally in that one, just making sure on every aid station I was like filling up both water bottles and drinking them both before. So when you're coming up to the aid station, making sure I would take that in. And I was very focused also on getting the right energies in as well. Enough sugars, enough food to keep me going for one of these kind of long ultras. So filled up one bottle with Tailwind. Lots of people were trying to help me, but I like to be able to do it myself just because it forces me to take a break. If you get someone else doing something for you, yeah, I know you can maybe focus on eating some food or whatever, but I like to do it so it forces me to just calm down, relax, do that, and so did that myself. My dad was there pretty much at most aid stations, just supporting and filming, so credits to him for some of them shots from yesterday's video as well. Then the next climb was like a super nice, it was all super nice and beautiful, but the next one, it was like a little bit of a climb, and then it was like a runnable sort of section across kind of almost like marshy lands in a way, and then there was this like really nice climb up, and then the descent, the run was pretty like, it kind of almost felt like Hobbit land almost in a way, and but very kind of a steep descent, and it was pretty, not technical, but it was just steep on the grass, and so your quads are getting stretched out, and it was quite a descent. So second aid station, yet again, just before Snowdon, just filled up again on making sure that I would get the tailwind and the water in, and then straight up on an ascent towards Snowdon. So at that point, I'm about 26 kilometers in. I was making sure I was having the gels and shots and Cliff Bar, but just kind of like at the foothill of Snowdon, I started to really suffer for some reason. So 30 kilometers in, and I hit up my first wall. The first wall, I was very kind of I could feel it, and I knew it was coming. So I made sure, okay, drink the tailwind as much as you can, cliff blocks and a cliff shot, and just ride that bit out. Take the pace down. Don't worry, let people pass me, because you've got to run your own race and think about your own things, and that's what I was doing. So I thought, okay, look, take it back. You realize that you're about to you are hitting the wall or something. So I made it up to the summit of Snowdon, and I was pleased about that. And just as I got to the summit, I saw like this train going past, and there's like a train that goes up Snowdon in a way, and that gave me a kick, because it made me think, oh look, they're all in that train, and I've already done so many meters of vertical gain, I think like 2,000, and but the descent down Snowdon was really good as a result of stocking up on fuel and taking it easy, and I had a really good run down Snowdon. I then made it down to the 38 kilometer point, and that was sorry, I don't really remember all the names, but I think that's Rideau, and there was a nice little house with some great volunteers. Shout out to all the volunteers everywhere. They were like super amazing, super helpful, always friendly. These guys are just standing in there and they're helping people the whole day, and hats off to them. Even though it was nice weather and they weren't getting rained on or whatever, it's still like a great thing to do, and I fully appreciate it, and I think it's a great thing. So stocked up there, and there was a guy there about to drop out as well, and no offense to you, mate, if you're watching this, but I didn't want to let my thoughts and feelings be affected by negativity in a way. I know the guy wasn't being negative because he was you know, accepting his circumstances of whatever they were. But for me, I didn't want to sort of think about stopping, entertain those thoughts too much. So I kind of closed off from that, just went back into my zone, and kind of left from there. And you know, I think it's very important to sort of try and not be influenced by others in a way. And you know, this is one thing I was just saying with someone in a comment, I can't remember who, sorry, but they were asking about, you know, I didn't do a course recce. I didn't see the course at all before. I haven't ran it, or pretty much, I think I've only walked like a very little bit ages ago, so I don't even remember it. And when you go in not knowing anything, you're kind of blind to everything, and it's great that you can go and discover that adventure, and you discover all these things. So, you know, every corner you turn around, every summit you go over, you're like, wow, you know, this is so cool, this is so amazing. Now, maybe the flip side of that is if you're trying to race something, you don't know the next section, so you don't know, okay, I'm going to conserve some energy of this, or I know I can push it up until this point, or you know that I knew where the aid stations were, so I knew how much food and drink I could carry. But you know, if it's like a race strategy, then maybe it would be good to know, because you do know where you can give a bit extra gas, or if you're in a group and you want to try and lose someone, or you know, okay, I can let them go and I'll catch them up at this bit. So, but for me, I was going in blind, and someone was telling me that was the next bit was very technical, which it was, but I didn't know that, and I just, you know, didn't mind. Tailwind, drink, everything, go. So went out, and straight out from that one, it's like a really steep kind of rocky-ish ascent, and it was like super hard. And I remember going past this like family walking with their child, and she was just like running up pretty much. And at that point there, I think it was like 40 kilometers or something, and I was just like, all I could dream of was pizza already, and I was just like thinking about having a pizza when I finish. So yeah, but and then it came like another downhill section, and you know, I mean, you know, I'm going to constantly say it was a downhill section, there was an uphill section, and that's what it was, the events like that. But there was this, I started to suffer once again a little bit. There was this one really steep, but the last part that goes up before the next checkpoint was just like this pretty much like vertical wall of like a green sort of grass. It was pretty steep, and me and this other guy, we were kind of you know, together pretty much, and we got to the top, and I think he was just sat there enjoying the view and catching up, making sure he's fueled as well, and I did a bit of the same. And then we took the descent down, and the descent, you know, is pretty much straight down into Bed Gellert, which is the 53 kilometer point where the drop bags are. And the drop down there, it's like a super rocky, super steep path. And there were a few people coming up it, and I can't imagine how long it takes them to walk up it. But I was, you know, trying to run as fast, not fast, but I was trying to run down it, and it was technical. So, but it was, I actually felt quite good. One thing I did struggle with actually, which I haven't mentioned, is like from probably the first summit, first cresting of Snowdon, I got pretty cold. I have one of these tight tops on, and you know, I do like running in that, but the thing was I was sweating so much, or not so much, but sweating, and then you're going down, and then obviously you're at the top at a higher point peak, and it gets colder. So I was struggling a little bit with like the temperature differences a little bit. So I'd get hot and then cold, and then hot and then cold. So what I'd do is I'd just put my jacket on over the sleeves and over the backpack whilst I'm running down, and that would work quite well. So something maybe to figure out a little bit better on strategy, sort of clothing wise, but I managed it very well as well. It was about at this point as well, just before getting into the next aid station, that I kept looking at my heart rate, and I realized that, you know, like, so when I was going up the uphills before, You know, I'm like 150 to 160 beats per minute, trying to, you know, not go into the red zone too much, but it's hard when you're going uphill. But I saw a dramatic decrease in my heart rate after like this section here. And, you know, when I was going uphill in those sections there, like I was like 130 or 40 beats per minute, which was pretty, you know, I was putting some effort in, and I got a little bit caught up on that, I must admit, and found that a bit hard to deal with. And I caught up on it because it wasn't an issue, it's just general fatigue and such. And yeah, it was something I just had to deal with, but not like an actual health issue, but something that bothered me in my mind, and something that, you know, I will remember to work on this for the future. Got into that next aid station, which is like the kind of the main one, where there were drop bags. There was like you know, big indoor hall. It was really good. So I just changed my top, put my thermal top on. I think I spent about 19 minutes in there according to the timing. Anyway, so yeah, so stocked up on food and drink there, changed, and tried to spend, as my tactic is to spend as little time in these aid stations as possible. Yeah, headed out over to the next section, and when I was leaving, one of the guys, spectator, says, "Oh, you'll be happy with this section. It's relatively easy," which it looks like on the map when you look at it. It's this one here, where it's like the very little peak with a little bit of flat. But you know, after when you've done all those peaks, it was a little bit hard, and not hard, but it's just a different type of, you know, section. So it requires you effort for you to keep moving, like running or jogging. And there's still like a little bit of uphill, and along the river at one point it was a little bit rocky. I'm not complaining about it, but it wasn't just easy for me in a way. It did require effort, but it was nice to have a little bit of a runnable section where you can kind of kill some kilometers a little bit easier rather than going uphill and that such. Then there was a little bit of a sort of a hill up to Penny Pass, which is like the kind of second to last, or the last main big checkpoint. So just had some salted crisps there, which I was eating pretty much all the aid stations. And I had my first kind of like shot there of like a lemonade. That lemonade like picked me up like that. But then I headed out from that aid station, and because of like around Snowdonia, a lot of the paths of it are very well sort of paved. And I didn't know the course, and I kind of in my mind thought that, okay, it's on this first part is on the paved part, and I'll be running up at it nice and easy, and it'll be like a relatively simple route. There you go. That kind of crushed my dreams when I realized that it was far from it. But the first wall that you hit, and it was another wall for me as well in my body and everything, for the third time, was like a really technical kind of scramble, just straight up for the first part, then kind of like crest over and kind of scramble along down, and then around, some scrambling again, and then treated with, like it says, last kilometer to checkpoint 14, I believe it is, or where the summit is. And but when you look at that kilometer in the video, it doesn't really represent it. It's just like a vertical on very loose rocks, and it's just like, wow, it's super hard. It was super beautiful though. But one of the things I found hard with this section as well is that you're scrambling up very slowly, and you can see the peak, and it's just kind of like, oh my god, I'm going up at this rate and I've still got to get up there. And you know, that's where you really need to focus on the process over the actual movement or the end goal. So we finally crested over. There was some like really nice volunteers there in a tent, and it was super windy. And then it was the long descent back to the finish line. Now here it was a little bit tricky because this is the kind of tourist route, and it's very hard rock. So running downhill first of all when your legs are really beat up, and then also that it's like on a hard surface, and you've also got to be a little bit wary of where you're stepping. But Yeah, it was a semi-decent descent. At this point, I think I decided to stop eating and sort of taking in sort of nutrition because I just wanted it to be over with. I was sick of eating a little bit, starting to get sick of sweet stuff. But that actually, maybe I could have done with having something, but I knew the finish line was in sight. Now, that last section, when we got to the end and it turned left onto a field or something, seemed to drag on forever. I thought I was like right at the finish line. You can see the town, but you end up start going left away from the town and you're just like, what? Oh, come on, I want to go there. And you can just see the lights. And yeah, I mean, I got there, I got towards the line eventually. I crossed the line in 17:05 and 34, I believe, something like 38th place, I think. So that was pretty good. Very happy. My A goal was between 16 hours and 17 hours. So yeah, that's really awesome. I wasn't fully racing it, but I also wasn't fully just, having a jolly day out. So very happy with my performance, very happy with my time, and also very happy with how the event went and everything. Yeah, I felt, as I said, I hit the wall many times and I overcame it by just thinking about the moment and also just thinking about, why am I here? Why do I do this? And, I do it to have fun and enjoy the moment. And I just said, look, you're not racing it, just enjoy, just make sure you're enjoying every single moment of this and appreciate the views, appreciate you don't have to run, just crawl up. And that helped me a lot. So yeah, crossed the finish line, and first thing was there was a pizza kind of van there. Got myself a vegan pizza, and they had vegan kind of lentils and bean chili, and then just headed back to the sort of cabin we rented and crashed out at about midnight. So yeah, all in all, it was like a really awesome experience. Thought I'd never do that one again. I'm not really sure if I'll do this one again, just because I've done it in a way. But the thoughts quite quickly changed since after, and I've been thinking about, I'd maybe try and take a crack at the 100 to follow next year. But I'm not thinking about next year at all, thinking about my next goals. So we've got Ultra Trail, Lavaredo coming up, the Cortina Trail, and some Ultra Pyrenees at the end of the year, plus with many other goals and exciting adventures to come. So be sure to stay tuned for them. I'm sure I've missed some stuff out, which I'll probably mention in other videos anyway. And thanks a lot for tuning in. And if you've made it to this far, you're an awesome person. I don't know who would want to listen to me jibber jabber on, but yeah, I'm sure I've got some nuggets of helpfulness there. But thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, join the journey, and any comments, questions, or anything you want to know about it, let me know in comments down below, and I'm more than happy and I'll get back to you. Thanks a lot, everyone. See ya.